Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, Steph and I are going to bounce back and forth and show you some of our favorite plants at Panther Creek Nursery. This nursery is a little southeast of Raleigh. I did a video with some conifers here and then some other interesting leafy evergreens. This is another video just because there's so many really fun things here, and we're here in December, so a lot of things don't have leaves on them. We're going to come back in the spring and show you more from this really great. It's, I wouldn't call it a specialty nursery, but they kind of go out of their way to have, some interesting things that maybe it's not available everywhere on the market, but not something that's difficult to grow, honestly, in the landscape. Got some really beautiful fastigiate plum yews here, the Cephalotaxis. This is just a great upright evergreen plant that I think is really underused. I think some of our other upright narrow plants get used way before this one does, and this has always been near the top of my list. I used it when I landscaped quite a bit. Great upright narrow habit, zone 6 to 9, deer proof or deer resistant. Cephalotaxis means deer eat yews, but they don't eat Cephalotaxis, which is kind of interesting. Great dark green foliage on it. When it wakes up in the spring, the new growth is slightly lighter, creating kind of a two-tone look to it. These will take dry, part shade conditions. Almost all Cephalotaxis will take drier conditions once they're established. But great looking, upright, slow growing too. It's not incredibly slow, but slow enough that this is a plant that you can plant in a narrow spot and just not have to do anything to it for years. And then if you ever need to prune it, you can just off with its head, one afternoon and move on with life for a couple more years.
My first selection is Cedars atlantica Hortsman. Look at this plant. It's so gorgeous. It's a semi-dwarf, getting maybe 8 to 10 feet, adding texture and color to a landscape. Such a gorgeous sort of Asian feel to it, just beautiful. It happens to be one of the few true cedars we have in the world. Next to it right here, we have deodar cedar, another one as well. Just such a beautiful addition to a landscape. I know Jim did, he featured the Cedrus glauca pendula in one of his previous videos a couple days ago. So obviously we're quite taken by these. We have feeling blue in our landscape as well from the deodar. So we do love cedars. Well, my second selection is the beloved longleaf pine. It's such a gorgeous plant, and like I'm doing, it makes you kind of want to play with it a bit. It's just plain beautiful. It's the symbol of the southeast, basically, as far as plants go. It's a native, so we've had this here for a bazillion years, but it is endangered because of logging and such. Its native range was from eastern Virginia, kind of swooping all the way across to eastern Texas. It's born out of fire, so in order to create more longleaf pines in the wilds, they have to be affected by fire. Such a beautiful, rich, textured plant. One of the really interesting things about this plant is not only will they reach 100 feet tall, but they will live up to like 500 years. Such a gorgeous statement in a landscape, that's for sure. I wish we had more of them in the native range of the southeast.
This is an Arizona cypress called blue ice, Cupressus arizonica, blue ice. This is actually my favorite of the Arizona cypress. Carolina sapphire became the go-to one that a lot of nurseries grow, and I grew this one for years. I actually just like the character of it a little more. It may not be quite as good of a screening plant as Carolina sapphire. Carolina sapphire just has a more green giant look to it with the blue foliage. But I think this one has a better blue. A slightly better blue than Carolina sapphire. I don't want to, overdo that, but I think it has a better blue, and I think it has just more interesting character. So if I wanted to put one of these blue conifers in, and I wasn't trying to create a screen, I wasn't trying to, box myself in, this is the one I would use because it just has this almost electric blue coloration. And here we are in the middle of December. It's putting on new growth. Really funky smell to these. These are southwestern U.S. natives, but here in the southeast they grow like crazy. They actually don't mind the rainfall that we get and grow very fast because of it. These can probably grow 2 feet in a single season.
I'm standing here in a group of cephalotaxis plants. Jim just showed us the fastigiate variety that he was attracted to. I walked by these and thought, this is a cool plant. I'm not familiar with it, I'll be honest. Obviously, we're familiar with Utopia, which we show quite a bit. A beautiful vase-shaped variety. Love that plant. Duke Gardens is really prevalent, and of course the prostrata, that sort of flatter variety. You'll see that quite a bit. But this is called hedgehog, and it is a fuller, denser shrub. It's not as vase-shaped, it's sort of rounded a little more. The needles sort of close in on themselves. It makes it a really unique look, a great texture added to sort of a semi-shady landscape. Just a beautiful dwarf cephalotaxis. Cephalotaxis harringtonia hedgehog. Look at this plant. It's another cedar. It actually is a cedar that we have in our home landscape, but we don't have it in a standard form. This has been standard. It looks to be a grafted selection. It's Cedrus deodora Felin Blue. Ours is in the backyard and is more of, well, it is more the shrubbier regular habit. If it's that particular habit, it's going to grow 4 or 5 feet tall, get much wider than tall. This one is a standard, would be perfect in our landscape because we could keep it smaller and it'd just be gorgeous. I'd love to have this in a really nice big container, underplanted with some, maybe a large leafed plant of some sort to give a lot of contrast in it. Such a gorgeous plant. It's hardy from 6 to 9. And again, it's one of the few real cedars.
Next up for me is one of my favorite cleyeras. This is Bronze Beauty, and we're shooting this in December. It's had a couple frost on it, so you can see this reddish coloration show up in it. The new growth in the spring is also a similar color to this. During the middle of the summer, it's just a really nice, rich, dark green. It has a slightly narrower leaf than some of the other cleyeras. It can get quite big. I see sometimes mistake being made using cleyeras under windows on foundations. Not really a great plant for that. It would do well between windows or on the corner of a foundation. Best place for it is actually probably out on the corner of your property as a screening plant. Pretty fast growing. You can really see in these containers here, probably toward the end, since the last time it was pruned, whenever it was pruned, probably back in the summer, it's grown a couple feet in this container. So once it hits it'll take a year or so to get roots under it. But once it gets going, this is a very fast growing plant, really kind of underused as screening plants and more overused as foundation plants. Great coloration on this plant. This is a plant, like every time you go out and look at it during the year, each season it's going to be doing something different, all of it interesting and all of it quite striking.
I'm sitting here in a group of absolutely gorgeous black mondo. I like contrast and texture in the landscape. I'm drawn to it. And what gives more color and texture contrast in a shady landscape than black mondo? Look at it. It's almost to the purple to the point of almost black. In this particular pot, there's actually a kind of wrong time of the year flower and some of the blackish purple berries as well. It does clump outward, and it does it very slowly, however. It's just a great plant to add to your landscape in the shade, or put it in a container to give contrast as well. Such a beautiful plant. It's hardy from zone 6 to 10. The one thing I will say, we have this in our landscape, but we have it in dry shade, and it doesn't seem to like that. So I would say kind of an evenly moist, well-drained soil is probably a better option than dry shade for sure. Such a beautiful accent in a shade landscape. Great with contrast too. Look at that. If you had like a mojo pittosporum or some sort of that variegated alyssium that Jim showed earlier, great contrast in a shady landscape.
We're filming this on like December 6th, and here the viburnum macrocephalum, or the Chinese snowball viburnum, are still flowering. That's pretty typical. Ours at the house is flowering as well. A little bit of frost and freeze on them has slowed them down some, but they're still blooming away. Not actually the plant I was going to talk about, but it's right next to the plant I was going to talk about. This is a Camellia sasanqua called Kanjiro. Been around for a long time. Gets pretty big if you let it. Slow growing like typical camellia. One of the things I've always liked about Kanjiro, number one, it's incredibly reliable. This is an old variety. It's incredibly reliable, being very heavy flowering, like super showy. These have had a couple 27, 28 degree nights on them, and so some of the flowers have died back, but almost immediately on a mild day, and I don't need this jacket on right now, they start opening flowers again and cover up those brown flowers super, super fast. Main draw for me for Kanjiro is it has the single flower, and all the flower parts in the middle of the flower are exposed, and the bees absolutely love them. I mean, there's pollinators all over these. You get a mild day like today, a little overcast this morning, it's early, so they haven't started. Well, I say that, and then here comes a honeybee to land on that flower right there. And then behind it, some 7-gallon October Magic Orchid camellias. Orchid has the pink fringe and kind of a lighter center. Also has the flower parts exposed on it as well. It's a semi-double, but it still has the flower parts exposed, and the bees are all over these as well. This one we have right next to our porch at the house, and you can keep this one really compact, but it naturally has kind of an upright, narrow habit. So the spot we have it in, we can allow it to kind of come up and be part of what we see from our inside of our screen porch in the future without it taking up a big footprint in the landscape. So that's October Magic Orchid and Kanjiro, an oldie but a goodie.
I'm standing here in a grove of a tree that I have wanted for our landscape for quite a while. It is available in the Southern Living Plant Collection group of plants. It is a gordlinia. The cultivar is Sweet Tea. It's a hybrid of the Franklin tree and the gordonia tree. The gordonia being a native of the southeast, from the tidewater of Virginia through the southeast, and the Franklin tree, which is not a native and is deciduous. So these are considered semi-evergreen, and which is sort of like a combo of the two. And it creates, from summer all the way through fall, a large 5-inch diameter bloom that's white and lightly fragrant. There's a sample of the flower right over here, and we'll show you in a closer view. One of the things it does, that the gordonia does, even though it's evergreen, some of the leaves will turn sort of a crimson burgundy color in the winter, and I can see that it gets some of that from its parent plant. That is just so pretty as well. Sweet Tea gordlinia, always wanted it.
In the first video I put up the other day, I did cover this Mr. Bowling Ball. If you go back and watch that video, this is a fantastic Camellias obtusa. So we have a regular green hinoki cypress in our garden, and there's lots of different types of Camellias obtusa, just interesting forms, features, dwarfs, ones that get quite big. This one's somewhere in the middle. This one's called Vodoni. It gets about 4 to 6 feet in height. Most everybody watching can grow this. It's hardy in zones 4 to 8. These are extremely burn resistant. These are growing out in the middle of a field, and so I really want to point that out. A lot of these gold foliage conifers need some late day shade. In fact, they have most of their gold conifers growing down here along a wood line, and so that by the middle of the afternoon, they got some shade on them. But here we are with this one out in the middle of the field. It is December, but this is where they've been growing all season long, and there's virtually no burn on the top, or very limited amount of bleaching on the top of these. Great, great plant. Little Christmas tree shaped, 4 to 6 foot tall conifer, super soft to the touch. You can't stop touching it, honestly. All the new growth on it's gold. All the old growth is kind of a greenish, even a little bit of a blue hue to it. So great contrast, great piece to add to the garden. And full sun or part shade, definitely the more north you go with it, the more sun it would take. By the time you get down to 7B or 8A, you'd probably want it, not 15 hours of direct sun in June, but great, great plant. So there's some interesting plants. Again, there's a conifer video from here, a leafy evergreen interesting plant video I've done from here, and now just some interesting things that Steph and I have seen this morning around Panther Creek Nursery. So thanks to them for letting us come over here and film, and thank you guys for watching.